Hello, everybody, and welcome to Google Workspace for Education Plus, featured by the Cobblestone Collective. I am your host, Danny Leeming. I am a teacher librarian from Castlegar, British Columbia, Canada. But our fountain of knowledge for the day is Miss Justine Tominins.
Yeah, that was good.
I got it.
I'll take it.
And I will pass it right over to her, and she will lead us through all the amazing stuff that we have going on today.
Thank you, Danny. So, as he mentioned, today's workshop is looking at Google Workspace for Education, and we'll discuss what that means, and we'll go into it right now. Again, my name is Justine Timanis. I'm from Brampton, Ontario. I am situated on the head of the lake, which is Treaty 14, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Danny, you are located on very interesting parts of Canada.
Exactly. So I'm out in British Columbia, like I mentioned. I am on the unceded territory of several different First Nations groups, including the Sinaiks, who unfortunately were declared extinct by our federal government in 1967. I don't quote me on the year, but very recent legal developments have maybe put that into question because those people are very much still here. However, I am honored to work, learn, and play on the territories of all those peoples and the peoples that came before us.
Awesome. So again, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples inhabited and cared for this land and continue to do so today. I acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Ojibwe Chippewa peoples. The land is home to Métis and most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. To honor this agreement, we will take up our responsibility to be respectful of traditions, knowledge, and inherent rights as sovereign nations. We will respect the relationship with these lands and recognize that our connection to this land is through the continued relationship with these First Nations, and we acknowledge our shared responsibility to respect and care for the land and waters for future generations. I'd also just like to point out this website, nativeland.ca. Um, right now, recently, I've been really looking into where I am from and what land I'm on. And it's a great place to find where you are located in Canada and what was there before you. So let's get into it. First off, um, who are we? We are educators with the Cobblestone Collective. We have three amazing female leads behind us, Michelle, and Emily. But really, it's a collective group of passionate educators who want to share our knowledge with all of you. So today's plan, we are going to look at EDU Plus features overview. What is it? What is it that you have in your account? We are also going to look at Google Meet and really go into what I think are some amazing features that you get with this bonus plus account, and then a few things in Google Classroom as well. So what is Google Workspace for Education? This is just a breakdown of the different accounts you can have. You have the Google Workspace for Education Fundamentals, which is basically the account most school boards have, and it was formerly known as G Suite for Education. But the one we are going to be talking about is the best of the best, which is the Google Workspace for Education Plus, which is formerly known as G Suite Enterprise for Education. Why I wanted to highlight this is just when you go into the Google site and look up certain things, it's great to know that we are saying bye to the enterprise and hello to Education Plus, just so your search is a bit easier. So let's get into Google Meet. What is it that the Education Plus features? You have recorded lessons, you have attendance tracking, noise cancellation, breakout rooms, which I think is the most exciting part of it all, polls, question and answer, up to 250 people can join your meet, and you can live stream up to 100,000 people, which is amazing. So why Google Meet? Danny, why do you use Google Meet?
I think it's just it's kind of a catch-all for everything, right? Like you can do, we've switched to student parent conferencing on Google Meet using appointment slots and calendar, which is another feature that we won't talk about, we won't really get into today, but it makes, in my rural setting, using Google Meet allows parents to not spend an extra 45 minutes in the car coming back to the school for parent teachers. It allows my students to connect with experts all over the world at any time. It allows us to record and create opportunities using stuff like Breakout Rooms so that they can get that interaction with the greater global world, even though we're still at a school that has turkeys in the parking lot and the forest right behind, right? It brings the world into my classroom on a daily basis, and it's kind of an indispensable tool for me.
Yeah, I would say the exact same. And I think the main thing too is that it's user friendly. Like we can do all these things and it sounds like, oh my goodness, that's a lot. How am I supposed to do that? But Google Meet is very user friendly to allow you to have that simplicity. So we are actually going to go into a Google Meet and show you all these cool features. But I wanted to just highlight, before you enter your Google Meet, check out how you look and sound before you enter. Make sure the correct devices, your audio and video, are chosen to avoid troubleshooting once inside the Meet. So normally when you get into a Meet, you see this screen. Some people call it the lobby, and you'll see a picture of your face. You can mute your mic, turn off your camera before you join. But there's this little button here to check your audio and video. And once you click it, you'll go in and you can actually choose which camera, which microphone, which speaker, as well as if you clicked preview, you can kind of make a tidbit of your voice, record a little bit, and you can hear how you'll actually sound. This is great, especially if you're someone who has multiple devices or uses different tools. For example, I use my AirPods. Sometimes I use my headphones, and then it all doesn't work together. So it's great also to show your students so that the first 10 minutes of your Google Meet aren't just troubleshooting and making sure everyone can understand what's going on. So there are 4 ways to start a Meet. Through Google Classroom, I think is the safest way to do that. It is just between you and your students that are in that classroom. So even if students try to share that link to another student, even in the same school, if they're not in that Google Classroom, they will not be able to enter that Google Meet. You can also do it through meet.google.com or through the app. You can do it through Gmail. On the side of your screen, it will have this option, as well as through Calendar. And finally, before we enter the Google Meets, we are going to look at also polls and Q&A. And they are kind of similar, but they also have very distinct purposes. Polls is great to get a quick pulse of the audience. It creates a positive classroom environment. I like to use polls to just learn more about my students. It sure students are engaged. Sometimes I'll just ask a quick poll of, did you understand that? And that's for gauging student understanding as well. And it provides students choice with the learning. You can use a poll just like we would in the classroom of the options of what to learn today and where our learning will go. Q&A, I think, is really great in regards to our chat in the Google Meet. Sometimes we'll have our students writing a million questions. And because the chat just keeps going and going, it is really hard to find all those questions. Q&A is a separate section that will let you see every single question, be able to avoid those oral interruptions. They can just post it there, avoid repetition of questions. Students can vote on the questions, but I'll show you. Again, main important thing, gauge student understanding. Are they understanding what's going on? As well as you as a teacher, keep track of responded questions. I don't know how many times I've probably answered the same question over and over again because I'm just in the zone of teaching, and then the students are like, you've said that already. All right, so let's enter a Google Meet. And what I'm going to do is present my screen. I'll stop presenting here. And I'm going to share my entire screen. There we go. All right. So we are in our Google Meet. You can see Danny there, and you can see a few other me's multiple times. I just use my accounts to show that we have multiple people in here. Some cool settings here when you click your three Timbits, as we call them, the settings over here. You can also do your noise cancellation and filters out sound from the mic that isn't speech. So if you are working from home or even at the school and there's a lot of stuff going on, it helps to cancel that. You also have host controls. So instead of it just being me, the teacher, that has access, if you have another educator that you'd like to give responsibility to, or even a student, you can add that. And we have attendance tracking here. If you turn that on, what will happen is it will track when students come in, when students leave, how long they were in the chat for. So that's a great feature as well.
Another way to use attendance tracking that I've sort of been thinking about is if you're hosting, like I said, like an open parent night. And, you know, in BC, we have to document parent contacts per year, things like that. Your attendance tracking, you can have an open parent night and you're sort of tracking automatically. It's giving you that documentation as a teacher. That's just saving you time down the line with the sort of the administration of education that we don't really like to spend all our time on. And makes it easier, and so all you're focused on is dealing with your parents and your community.
Yeah, exactly. And dealing with focusing on whatever information you have to explain, rather than pausing every so often saying, oh, you came in the room, and tracking all that down. It's already being done for you as you're having your presentation.
Exactly.
All right. So you will see here the shapes, which is activities. And this is where you'll find everything. Now, if you do have a Google Workspace for Education Plus account and you do not see these things, first thing I would say is check with your IT. Sometimes they have to turn it on, or sometimes it's just rolling through. So don't think that there's a problem, but just check just to be safe. So we're gonna go first into polls and Q&A. So I'm just gonna open a poll, start a poll, and I'm just gonna ask, there's a cat, dog. I can add more options if I want. I can save it, which is great. So before the students even come in, I can set myself up for all the polls I want. I can keep adding. My questions in. Again, I can save it. And you'll also notice here, I can re-edit, but also show everyone the results. So if there's a poll, for example, I might ask a poll such as, did you understand? Obviously, you might make it more specific to what you're teaching. Yes, no. Need a bit more explanation. You might not want everyone to see those results, so I might leave that off. So I just see what's happening. But I can turn these on because I want everyone to see the results, and I can launch it. So let's say I just launched that one. So what's going to happen is students can basically poll on their side. All right, so I'm going to check back into my polls. And you'll see here, this one was live. I have 1 vote for cat, 1 vote for dog. If I don't want them, my students, to post anymore on that poll, I can end the poll and I'll see my results. And again, same thing. Let's say I'm going through my lesson, realizing we're not going to get to this. I can just close it and delete them. And then I will show you after where you'll get this. Basically, once the Google Meet is over, you will get an email with a Google Sheet with all the results, and we'll show that after. I can also do.
I was just going to add, I was going to say, about not to keep going back to like the community example, but again, if you're doing like my school, we just did a big overhaul of our middle years program, and we consulted with parents and community stakeholders, and having all that data being able to like be captured in a way that doesn't force people to get on their microphone and their camera, and then also having it logged, again reducing this like the administration part of the job that we're doing when we're focused on connecting with community. These tools are great for schools at all levels, for kids, for teachers, for staff if you're hosting a staff meeting virtually, and for the community.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Q&A. This is where students can ask a question. So instead of, like I said, putting it all in a chat and then the chat get flooded with a million comments and trying to figure out where the questions are, they can ask a question here. So let's say my student said, how many people live on the earth? Let's just say we were talking about that. That was a question, they can post it. What's cool about this is my students will see this all. I can change all these. I have different sorting features, but students can upvote, which means that if they have the same question, rather than them repeating the exact same question and I see it 20 times, they can just keep clicking this and I'll notice, oh, that's a question that a lot of students are having. I need to review that part with them. I can mark it as hidden. So for if let's say it's something that I know I'm going to get to later on, and I just don't want to keep looking at it, I can mark it as hidden if I need to. Or if it's a question just for me, maybe they want to ask me something, I realize right away I can hide it. I can mark it as answered. So once I've actually answered it, I can say, yep, I've answered it. And that's a great tool for me as a teacher. Like I said, sometimes I don't realize, did I answer that question? Did I not answer that question? And I can also delete the question if I want to. I like to see the log, and that would help me to kind of gauge my students' understanding, like I said. And they can keep asking questions throughout. And again, just like the polls, you will get an email with all of the questions. All right. Recording, basic, recording for on-demand viewing, and whiteboarding is basically Jamboard. And if you don't know Jamboard yet, you need to learn Jamboard. That's all I can say about that, because we can go into, I think Danny and I can go into hours and hours of Jamboard and how amazing it is. One thing I will say is that you do have to tell your students where it is. It's not just in the chats. You do have to say, okay, go to activities or go to polls and go to Q&A, but it's really simple to get there. All right. Let me stop presenting like this. And let me show you how it looks when you get the emails.
While you're doing that, I just to add about Jamboard, having it built into a Google Meet is so much nicer, because you don't have to, especially with younger kids, you don't have to train them for the tab switching, going back and forth and moving around. It's nice. It's all right there and visual and nice and interactive. It's awesome.
Yeah, and the fact that you can make a blank one or just pull one up from your drive.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, yeah, you just need a blank one just to go with it, right? So you'll see here with the data reports, this is the attendance report. So you'll see the name, the email, how long were they there, what time they joined, and what time they exited. And again, that's great, like Danny said, for the administrative purposes of things. You're busy focusing on what you need to teach. And you might see students coming in and out, like at the bottom where it says like they've left the meeting, but you don't have time at that point to really figure out what's going on. So this is a great just summary of it. Here you'll see also the questions. So what the question is, who submitted the question, when was the question submitted, was it upvoted, how many times, and then was it answered, was it hidden, was it cleared, or was it deleted? All this I'm not really too worried about. I'm more focused on answered or upvoted. Because maybe you ask them to ask the questions there, but you're not going to answer them just yet either. Maybe you decide you're going to answer them in another later date. At least you know which ones are more important, which ones you need to really cover. And again, for the polls, the student's name, and then it will just show as it keeps going all the way through what were their responses. And yes, sorry, Danny, totally dogs for
Cats is the right answer, but I'll go with it today.
me.
I just wanted to add about the question tracking is like my favorite thing because as an exit ticket, you could be like, what do we need to learn tomorrow, or what more questions do you have right now that we can do in tomorrow's class, and vote for your favorite answers, and that help you steer your instruction, or like where are the gaps in what we learned today, and that helps you guide your planning and gives you like a really nice data snapshot of where your class is at. So handy. And again, it's another one of those googly tools that's just like taking the job of being a teacher and making it more about like teaching kids and less about the administrivia of being a teacher.
Yeah, I think like it's just honestly, it makes you collecting the data. We need that data. It's so important, but making it easier to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all just on your drive, email and then drive, right? All right. Google Meet breakout rooms. I think so many educators last year were asking for this. There were different extensions to use, and then the extensions weren't working, and educators were trying different ways to do it, but now it's all within Google Meet. So why breakout rooms? Promote student voice. That's, I think, the most important thing. Whether you're online or in person, we need to know our students, and we need to hear what they're learning, how they're learning, where their needs are. It allows for smaller group discussions. It provides opportunity for differentiated activities, so you can group kids in different ways. It encourages collaboration and again enhances individual engagement. So one thing is you can prepare ahead of time. You can pre-populate your breakout rooms, meaning if you know which groups you want ahead of time, you can put them into different groups using Google Calendar. This is a tool, again, depending if your students know how to use Google Calendar. Maybe for older students that might work better, but just know that there is that option as well. There is an also ask for help button, so we'll go through that as well. And we just want to show you how it works. So let's go back into me stopping this presentation and showing my screen again. Okay, so we're going to go into breakout rooms. So again, from the beginning part, activities at the bottom, the shapes, and click breakout rooms. Now you'll see everyone that is in your Google Meet. Yours will probably have a lot more people. You're going to set up breakout rooms, and you can decide how many rooms you need. We've done this, and there was, I think, Danny, the last one, was there like 10 to 15 rooms I had to put the amount of people we had in there. But let's say we're just going to put 3. You can shuffle people around. So if you don't worry about who's going into what, maybe I shouldn't do 3 because everyone's going to be by themselves. We'll do 2. You can clear it. You can also add a timer. And so if you decide you want people to go in for, let's say, 5 minutes, I want you guys to go into your breakout rooms and discuss for 5 minutes. What it will actually do is once they go into the breakout room, after 5 minutes, it's actually going to push them to come back. Okay, so you'll see here, main call. That's where we are. And once I push open rooms, you can go into your room and you can come back. If a student tries to come out or leave their breakout room, they will just come back to the main call, and that's who I am, which is Cobblestone Collective. They will come to me. With the breakout rooms too, you can change the name. So if you were doing government, for example, if that was the topic you were talking about, and then you were doing another topic, I don't know, ethics, I'm just making random stuff up right now, they would know what the topic was, essentially. Now, if I was to push open, which I will, if I do push open rooms, you'll see at the top, breakout rooms are in session. I am in the main call. What will happen is on my other screens, on the student screen, they will see you've been invited to join, and they will click join. So one of my students will click join now, which is me, and you will see over here that person is in there right now. There's no one in ethics at the moment. The rest of us are in the main call.
And
So
they,
yes, students will be.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
going to
Danny.
say, and on my screen, because I'm on the other end recording, you saw the pop up that invited me on my second monitor to join one of the breakout rooms, which I said no to, so I didn't disappear and lose Justine. But you see how that works for students. It's easy. It's just like, hey, time to go. And then, like Justine said, it'll pull them back when the time is up.
Yeah. So you'll see at the top here, it says breakout rooms are in session, ending in 5 minutes for now. Once it gets to 30 seconds normally, it turns red and it'll basically say you are leaving, you are going to be pushed back to the main call in 30 seconds, which is nice because it gives whoever's talking at that time in the breakout room time to finish their thoughts or finish whatever the discussion is before they're pushed back out. As the teacher, you are in the main call. I can go and join rooms. So that is something that we have discussed. Students are in the breakout rooms by themselves, but I can go and join, as you can see, any room I need to. Go in, talk to them about whatever the discussion is, and then come back to the main call. Now, for students in general, as particularly the younger ones, this can be a bit wearisome for sure. But this is where you really talk about digital citizenship and you talk about the rules and responsibilities of being online. Another great tip is to perhaps choose a student in each group to be the leaders of those groups, whatever word works for you, or give each student a role in the group. They'll also have access to a chat in their breakout room that you won't get access to after. So I know that one educator, what she does is she has one student take copy the entire chat that they're using, paste it into a Google Doc and email it to her just so she knows what was going on. You may also decide, I don't want you to use the chat feature. I want you to verbally talk with each other. I am going to actually, you can see, I can, even though there's 3 minutes left, I can close those rooms early. If I feel enough time has happened or I've been going in and it seems like the discussion isn't happening or it's going into the wrong direction, I can close the room. As you can see, everyone will be asked to return the main call in 30 seconds, close all rooms. You can see here, there's that red screen I was talking about. If I don't even want to give them those 20 seconds, although I think it's important to do that, but for this point, I can still push click now, close rooms now, and it will do it and take away those 30 seconds. Anything to add to that, Danny? I feel like that's basically it. Very
It's just
simple.
a life-saving feature, I think. There was many like sort of alternative ways to breakout room, when remote learning started and COVID was just happening. I think this feature is a lifesaver. It makes everything so much easier. It logs or creates a lot of opportunities for learning. And again, I'm going to keep going back to the community piece, right? You can host breakout sessions, you can host staff meetings, breakout into departments, all that kind of stuff, depending on what your situation is with your teaching right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just for students, we can use it too. So again, one feature, because we can't go into the breakout room ourselves to see, in the breakout room, the student or whoever's in there has this option to ask for help. When they ask for help, on the side of my screen, when I see all of them, I can see this. It will highlight that someone asked for help, and then that allows me to go in there. I can still go in whenever I need to and join the class whenever I need to, the breakout room whenever I need to. But if there is someone who really does need help, they can flag me. They don't need to come back to the main call and say, Ms. Tanis, I need you to help. It's all right there. So that's great as well. So Danny already said a few Google Meet ideas, whether that's just breakout room in general or Google Meets, breakout group centers, breakout work rooms, read aloud, book talks. And again, it's that idea of like Denny said, how do you plan to build community within the class and school while adhering to social distancing rules that we have to at this point?
Also, if you're hosting, like, I didn't see if it was on the list there of great ideas you had, but like, say you're hosting a meet the teacher, you have your admin in the main room, they're greeting and saying hi to the parents, then you have teachers in the breakout rooms, and parents and kids that show up to that event can just sort of jump from teacher to teacher to teacher as like a town hall type of event, where you've got a private space to talk and learn about what's going on in that kid's class. And again, for rural, COVID, no COVID, in a rural setting, which is most of Canada, that saves people so much time in their vehicles traveling to and from, without really changing the experience. You still get that personal connection and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and it keeps it equitable too, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about people in cars. Some people can't get there. Or I know as a student, my parents worked late, and sometimes those hours for parent teacher, they could never go,
Mm-hmm.
right? This helps to eliminate that. They can get there as long as they have the device, and still experience that as well. One of the things here, live stream assemblies, which is next. So as I mentioned in the beginning, 250 people can join a Google Meet. The live stream option allows for 100,000 people to join and watch the presentation, which Danny keeps using that word community. That should be like the word of the day, community. And so you can just have the people in the Google Meet. You don't even need that many people, but this is a great opportunity for, let's say, the entire community to watch. Your parents, you can ask anyone in the community. Let's say you're doing like assemblies, for example. I think that's the main one that's happening right now. Because of COVID rules, we can't really all go and enjoy the assemblies, but you can use the live stream option to do so. And again, very simple.
Yeah.
Everything seems very simple.
And like, YouTube is a fabulous tool. I use it all the time with my senior students. I use it all the time for publishing student work. But sometimes, younger kids, types of assemblies, types of community events, not really a YouTube anybody in the world can watch it type events. You kind of want to keep it closed, a little bit more private. You don't want the videos of your 10-year-old being out on YouTube forever. This is a way that you can do that event in a more secure, private fashion, so that it's not gonna be all out on YouTube for anybody to consume. It's sort of a private invite, private event.
Yeah, just live then, and that's it. So that's Google Meet. Lots there to discover and to enjoy. Now we're going to move on to Google Classroom. Google Classroom, the Education Plus feature, has originality reports, SIS student rosters, Google Classroom add-ons, course templates, student activity, and Google Classroom logs. There's a lot of great features with Google Classroom. One thing I will say about the Education Plus features is a few of them are from the administrator access part. So activities and Google Classroom logs, admin will have to access that. SIS student rosters, that has to go through the admin side too, so they can just put your roster in automatically. Google Classroom add-ons and course templates, there are some things that are still rolling out as well. I've added a link here, and it kind of says Google for Education updates for summer 2021. What is coming, when they are supposed to come, but sometimes even though it's the hope is summer 2021, it takes a lot of time because there's a lot of Google users. So we're going to go into two things. First is Guardian summaries. Now, if you don't use Guardian summaries, Danny raved about this last time we were discussing it.
Start using them. They're amazing.
Again, it's that admin side done for you. They provide an overview for all the active classrooms that the student is currently in. So whether they have one homeroom teacher and they're using one classroom, or if you're in secondary and they have multiple teachers, even for the students themselves, it's a great overview of what is happening, what are things due, great conversation starter at home, what is it? And it helps you as a teacher as well to just show that you're communicating with the students and their parents without really doing much besides focusing on your Google Classroom. Anything else you want to add to the rave of what guardian summaries are?
Oh my
Because
God.
I know how much you love them.
Think about how much time this saves us. Think about how much time it saves us. Like so often with, just by the busyness of our work, we often are only communicating with parents in a situation where a kid is missing a bunch of stuff. And imagine how long it would take every Friday afternoon to sit at the end of your week and call every kid in every one of your classes and tell the parent, here's what they handed in, here's what they're missing, here's what's coming. Like, just think of the hours that would take and think of the instantaneous nature that this does it for us. It is so amazing. Like, I'm blown away by how great of a feature it is. It's like the killer feature of Google Classroom. It is my number one reason to use it because parents just know. They just know. And not only that, the parents of really strong students that don't typically get called because their kid's never missing anything, they're getting that snapshot and that communication, and they understand what's going on. You talked about equity. It's an equitable way to just inform parents. Everybody gets it, whether they can read it on Friday afternoon or they can read it on Sunday morning, depending on their work schedule. It's just there, right? And it's seamless, and it's logged, and there's an archive of it, and it's just brilliant. I cannot say enough good things about this feature. Use it, use it, use it, use it, use it.
It's his favorite thing. I knew to just send it over because he loves it. And it is great. Also, for teachers, Google Classroom can be overwhelming at times, but there are some simple things to do in the settings to help you. When you go into settings, which is that little gear button, that's where you can turn on your Guardian summaries, because it does need to be turned on in order to use it. The stream, you have those options of who can post on the stream. That main part, we'll go through that. Students can post in comments, students can only comment, only teachers can post or comment. I personally like students can post in comments. I've taught as young as grade 2, and yes, it can get crazy in that stream, especially the very first day, and the students like, hi, 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 and emojis everywhere. Again, a great way to start that conversation about digital citizenship and roles and responsibilities of using the classroom. Classwork on the stream as well. Sometimes we have a lot of things on that stream. I like my stream to be very clear, just my announcement. I don't need my students to know that I just posted an assignment. That can be overwhelming for some students as well, especially if I post assignments on a Sunday for the whole week and they're like, oh my God, that's a lot. If I hide those notifications, all they will see is the announcements, and then I just show my students how to get the classwork, and I'm going to show you that right now. So let's share this tab instead. Similar to what Danny was raving about with Guardian summaries, another great feature in a student's account, here we have to review, and that's for us teachers. It tells us what was turned in, what hasn't been assigned. So basically it's like a to-do list for us. What haven't you looked at, teacher? Luckily, this is not my account and I only have one, because if we looked at my real account, there's probably lots that I have not gone through yet. But students will get a to-do, and it will do the same thing. It will kind of show them what still needs to be done. So if they're a student that has multiple classes, again, thinking about those secondary students or even middle school that maybe have their English and their French and their science and their math, and each teacher uses a different classroom, it can get overwhelming to go into every single classroom and try to figure out what is happening. That to-do button is an overview, just like Guardian summaries, of what there is to be done. So we're going into my demo class. And there is one thing I want to show you, the last thing I'm showing you for today, and it is originality reports. And Danny, do you use originality reports?
It's my second favorite thing.
About
Think about, again,
I have a lot of favorite things.
Think again about how long it would take to analyze every kid's paper for plagiarism, double check, just make sure, just do that once over, and do it without, your preconception of that kid's academic ability, right? Like, any kid can plagiarize.
Yeah.
And again, as teachers, we get really busy. if you catch a kid once, if you find the sentence where they use like anti-disestablishmentarianism, and you know that no kid knows what that word means. And so you dig a little deeper, and then the next time you mark that kid's paper, you give it the little extra eye. Originality reports, again, equity and time saving. It's going to analyze everybody's stuff. It also gets kids ready for an academic environment in post-secondary where they use automated originality tools of some kind and have for years, and it becomes quite as a shock to some of them. It's just a good training tool, and it's not like a punishment thing. It's an education thing, because you're like, look, the computer does this automatically. I don't have to. You're going to get snagged. How do we change this? How do we reword stuff so that you don't get snagged with this stuff? It's just another tool that keeps us focused on kids and not the administration of education.
100%. And it helps too. Some kids don't even know, especially the young kids. They're told to do an assignment on a topic, and they find the information and they're writing it all down, but they're just copying and pasting. And this is again the learning point of when has to be taught, right? So again, classwork. I always show my students this is where classwork is. And classwork you can get to your Google Meet as well, another way. But when you create an assignment, and I'm just gonna make something. There's right here, check plagiarism, originality. Now, like I said, certain things roll out at certain times. As you saw, the account that I'm using, the Google Meet, all the Google Education Plus features have rolled out. Here, you'll notice it says 4 assignments remaining. You can enable originality reports on final assignments for class. That's for the regular Google Workspace for Education. If you have the Plus, it's unlimited originality reports plus peer comparison, and I'll explain that in a second. So I'm just going to continue and say that I want to use that and I want to assign it. So I'm going to pretend that like I assigned it. I just wanted to show you where check plagiarism is. I close that. Now I have one here that I got 2 people to do, Miss Emily and Miss Michelle. And you will see when I go into theirs, let me share my tab here. On the right side, no flagged passages, meaning nothing cited or quoted. This was all her own words. Of course, she's using research from online, but she wrote it in her words. She processed the information and wrote it out. She didn't just copy and paste. Emily, however, has 1 flagged passage. And there, you can just click it, and it will say, what is it? Where did it come from? What's the percentage of it? Of course, that's a lot, but it's a small paragraph. Where did she get it from? It shows where the student passage was and the web result. Which again, if a student also tries to argue it, you can show them as well where it came from. And then there's a great way to discuss, well, how can we make sure it's not plagiarized? That's something that's really I'm going to say that sentence though, I feel like even if she wrote it on her own, I don't think she meant the plagiarism, because that's the way a lot of students would write where they were born, where the person was born and where. Now with the peer comparison, which from what I have knowledge of, has to be done from the admin side, has to be turned on, maybe from IT side. What it does is it basically collects all the work from students. And then what happens is when you turn on originality, it actually checks not just online, but also that school or that classroom, I believe it's the whole school, the school's documentations and what they have saved, and if someone's plagiarizing another student's work.
It's like
Isn't that crazy, Danny?
Yeah, totally. It's like the local comparison. So like
yes.
The originality report that you just showed is like the global, what's on the internet, and then the peer comparison is what's been done internally. So if you have Like there's probably an episode of Saved by the Bell where
Siblings
somebody's selling term papers, right, at the school. Um,
or siblings are using their older siblings' work. I didn't have
exactly,
time. I have the same teacher. Let me use yours, right? And again,
exactly.
it's just, or even sometimes students using the same work that they used in a different class to try to use it in a new class, right? There's different ways, but I think that's a great tool as well
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, sometimes it's not just um, the online stuff. It is between students as well. And again, like Danny said, this isn't about penalizing a student or finding something they did wrong. It's about teaching them a lesson and helping them understand and learning how they can do their work without um, these issues, especially if post-secondary is their next goal. And yeah, there's sometimes a rude awakening when it gets to that point.
Mm-hmm. Academic integrity is no joke when it's cost tuition.
Yeah. All right. So that's basically everything that I can give you when it comes to Meet and Classroom. That's not to say that there is a lot more, but a lot of this is really comes down to you diving in and learning about it. Because I think that's the easiest way. At the back of this slide deck, there are some resources. Um, Again, there's some ways to use Google Workspace for education, the roadmap of Google Classroom, where they're trying to go with it, some great resource websites. Um, and yeah, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, that was wonderful. All the killer features of Google Plus, all the amazing tools for students, staff, and community. If you have feedback for us, we would love to hear it. You can send that feedback through that form there. You can also email help@cobblestonecollective.ca. There are real, active, in the classroom teachers checking that email on a regular basis. And if they don't know the answer, they ask and we find you the answer. So if you have any questions about, where do I turn this on or how does this work, feel free to send that in. Or if you're like, hey, why don't you guys do a full workshop on just this from this presentation and throw that our way, and we will, I can tell you from watching the cool teachers that we work with they can spin up presentations and on the most amazing things in almost no time. So if you have an idea, throw it our way. We'd love to help support your learning. You've got the slide deck there. And other than that, Justine, amazing work. And that's all for us.
Thank you. I was going to say, ignore the K to 6. This is how you know I did this when I was a little, forgot to change the K to 6. It's for everyone, not just K to 6. It's
Perfect.
K to 12. And like Danny said, and admin, and parents, and families, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.